Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Don't Praise the Machine. This is episode number 168. As always, I'm one of your hosts. I go by the name Alexander Holland. I'm sat in a slightly overcast Berlin, Germany today, and sat across from me digitally as is every single week. It's the best tenured professor of podcasting that you ever did see deep down in downtown, dirty Melbourne town. He's got to be the one called
John Junior Boost Maloney.
Oh
Hi,
wow,
everyone.
you're coming in with stronger energy than me. You're like real. I've become the quiet and reserved one, and we've done a switcheroo.
I want to be the loudmouth. That was a kind of sale of the century style intro. Sale of the century.
Sale of the century. What were the prizes on Sale of the Century? They had I think they always sent you to the Whit Sundays. I think that was it.
It was a lot of Whit Sundays. There's probably a bunch of kind of creepy abandoned resorts now that used to be prize destinations for Sale of the Century contestants. And then I think vacuums and silverware.
Yeah, it was a lot of silverware.
Pots and pans, fancy pots and pans.
Shout out to Tony Barber.
Maybe a car was like, yeah.
Shout out to Tony Barber, who I know is a huge fan of the pod.
He's a big supporter. Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks,
It's nice to have a Australian entertainment heavyweight in our corner.
Can you see my hat, John? See my hat, made of real gorilla fat. And
yeah, I saw it a few minutes ago, and I thought, I didn't know Al was that asset rich. You've got I wouldn't just be wearing that around, mate.
yeah, I don't actually. It's funny. I don't wear it around. I probably wouldn't take it out. I would take it out maybe for special occasions. If I'm at the Met Gala, I'd wear it, for example.
Yeah, totally.
If the Met Gala, when the Met Gala theme eventually is Australian rules football merchandise from the 90s instead of Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah.
So
or even just anything bird related, you can be like, I'm an Adelaide crow, you know.
So for our listeners who can't see, this is another little Easter egg to try and funnel people over to the YouTube channel. Just make each show really visually rich, so that everybody who's only listening and's never looked at us, but don't understand what he's talking. In fact, maybe in coming weeks, I'm just going to show objects in silence, and I'm just going to go, shh, hush, hush. You can't actually even say what it is. So this is my cap. This is my Adelaide Crows 1998 Premier's cap, which my mother and father would have bought me as gift when I was a boy in 1998. And it's embroidered. It's from the Australian AFL merchandise
Official provider.
Eclipse.
There we go.
And I'll show it to you because it's great because we had won because the Adelaide Crows is the Australian rules football team, our Australian rules football team in Adelaide, one of the two. You got Port Adelaide Pair and the Adelaide Cows. And the Adelaide Crows won the title in both 1998, which I was fortunate enough to attend, thanks to my father Stephen for driving me all the way to the 1997 AFL Grand Final. Saw that at the the MCG. And so you can see here, it says back-to-back 97, 98. Yeah. And then it has both.
Really put Adelaide on the map.
It put Adelaide on the map. Yeah. And then it has both of the Premiership logos because each grand final has got its own logo. So you have here the 1997 AFL Premiers. And then you have here the 1998 AFL Premiers. So this is basically, this is my retirement right here, is this cap. Such is its value.
Have you ever done a look on Amazon or
I haven't actually.
wherever for some merch?
If I go, what you mean to
imagine if right now you discovered you were like, fuck, I got to take this off and insure it.
97,
like one of those people on the Antiques Roadshow.
Did you know that a few years ago you could buy the same T-shirts that they sold directly after the Crows had run the Premiership in 97 and 98, which I bought a few of because they were just They were just you could go into any store in Adelaide in like October 97 and 98, and there were just Crows Premiership t-shirts wherever you would go. You'd go,
of course.
You'd go into your doctor's office,
the intensive care unit, and there'd be just
they'd say there'd be a rack
some Crows merch.
1997 Adelaide Crows cap back to back. See if it's. Oh, is that the same one? No, there's similar ones. But what I was going to say was that they did eventually end up making. A couple of years ago when I was back in Adelaide, I saw that they had reprinted the original Premiership shirt. They had saved the exact graphic, and so people were wearing the exact same short shirt that I was wearing when I was 16 years old. These giant Crows Premiership t-shirts.
That's great. And have they won a premiership since
They have not won a premiership since 1998. Isn't that incredible? Guys. What a long time between drinks.
It is a long time.
Yeah. And it doesn't look like they're going to be winning it this year, let me tell you.
No. So did you find anything on Amazon? I'm just going to have a look here on Amazon Australia. Crows 1998 premiership cap.
I can't seem to find the same one. There's a bunch of similar ones. There's caps from the 97 and 98 grand final, but I think this is so rare.
Yeah, that's a good sign. If there's not a lot going on, I can see a lot of new merch. But fuck me, you could be onto something special. I had a bit of a look the other day to test the value of my collection of 1993-94 Upper Deck basketball cards. I reckon I've got about $1,000 in there, actually. Some of them were getting sold individually. Yeah, it's crazy. Like some of them are getting sold individually for $5, Australian. Yeah. And I thought, well, I've got, hundreds of these. So it could be, I mean, who knows? Could be fuck all, but it could be up to about 1,000, which would be amazing. It's a pretty good advance on whatever $2 that my mum gave me at Burnside Village in 1993 to buy a pack of Upper Decks. That's probably the best investment my parents have ever made.
So you put them into the classic folder with the slip, so they're in good nick, and you have the folder with you in your home in Melbourne right now. That's always followed you around.
Well, it lived for years under the stairs in my parents' home.
Okay,
and
just like that creature.
Exactly, just like all of my subconscious fears. It lived a Babadook, and my basketball cards lived under the stairs in my parents' home. And then a few years ago, my mum was like, "Can you take all your random crap out of our house?" Yeah. And I reluctantly agreed. And then now it's living in my study in a little special part of the cupboard because obviously I don't want to get it damaged. But yeah, it's in. The thing I love about it is it's in one of those like classic, just back to school ring binder folders, and it's become very frayed and aged, and it's got a little sketch that I randomly did in 1993.
No way.
And just going to tell Sint to stop making noise outside, and it's got the little inserts that you can stick the individual cards in. And I love sometimes if I haven't opened one of them, because some of them I'll look at more often than others if I leaf through it, which I only do every couple of years, and I'll be like, oh, Shaquille O'Neal. But then sometimes I'll find something random like Clarence Weatherspoon, and I'll pull it out, and I'll get a little whiff of the Upper Deck ink that I would have gotten when I first opened the pack, and it takes me back to just getting a pack of cards and a Wendy's Mega Choc Shake and not having any responsibilities. But I've got a little memorabilia as well, which is kind of a weird coincidence that we're both
it's true, sporting memorabilia. we didn't arrange this.
It's not planned. I think we've talked about this on the show before, but it's my Keith Hernandez retirement
so good
commemorative retirement bootlegged T-shirt. Yeah.
If you wait,
and I mean that's a one-off.
Just wait there. I'm gonna get my little piece of Keith Hernandez merch. We'll make it. It's just in the bathroom. It'll be 2 secs.
Yeah, sure. Keith Hernandez show and tell. So just to give our listeners a bit of background, Keith Hernandez is a famous player for the New York Mets, the baseball team. And he retired some time ago, and he enjoyed a rare honor. I'm just explaining, Al, the background of Keith Hernandez.
Yeah.
Basically, he was a Mets player in the, I don't know, I guess the 90s.
The 90s.
Up
I
to
think
the
it was
90s.
I think it was an 80s. He played for
80s
another
and-
team as well. I seem to remember that when we watched him together at MetLife,
Yeah.
is that the name of MetLife Stadium? That
It is.
that they were saying in the video that he'd played for another team, and I think it was a big deal when he came across to the Mets.
Right. Yeah, okay. And then he stopped playing, but he kept a personality as like a commentator for a long time, and of course was famously in an episode of Seinfeld. And then they did this. They bestowed this rare honor on him when they say, "Well, this is your jersey number, and we're going to retire it, so it will always be associated with you." And we attended a game, and as part of the kind of rituals and festivities around the game, they had this little ceremony for Keith Hernandez, which was great because it was like, wow, this is like, because I knew him from Seinfeld, I was like, it's pretty rare that I would know anyone who's played baseball since Babe Ruth, but he's the one guy.
It was the most incredible stroke of luck because the amount of baseball games that are played in a season is insane. I had no idea about this until I went, and they were saying, "Oh yeah, they're just playing like 5 games this week." And I said, "What? What do you mean?" They just go, "Yeah, they just play every few days because it's not physically taxing in the same way that other sports might be. Like you can't play an AFL footy game and then just back it up 2 days later and like, do another one." But but let's have a look. So how many? It's called MLB, isn't it? How many games MLB season per team? Because it's just fucking crazy. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
162 games in the MLB season. Each team plays a total of 162 games.
That's just, I don't even know how they arrived at that number. Like, I was the same until I went in 2022 and watched the game and got a bit interested in baseball. I assumed that, like the sports I was familiar with, they might play one game a week.
Yeah.
And, at most. And they were just like, "No, we got to get on a plane now and go to some other city and have a crack in the morning, and then we'll do the same thing." So no wonder these like pitchers get paid insane amounts, for example, or really good hitters, because it must take a physical toll just to be doing that day after day after day.
It's getting a bit closer to a boring 9 to 5 baseball. You know, it's
exactly.
It's almost
going down to the pitching factory every day.
The soul-sucking monotony of having to play baseball every second day.
That's right. Please, boss, no more dingers. I can't.
No more dingers, please. Please, boss. I'm really stressed. I need to go to HR and tell them that I need time off because I'm having
the man can't hit. I missed my kid's birthday because I was hitting dingers all night.
Yeah, as opposed to Australian rules football, again, 23 matches per home and away season.
Piece of cake.
But yeah, we were talking about the game that we went to, and as I say, even more remarkable, John, that again, that amount of games per season for the MLB, 162 games. It could have been any year, could have been any game, and we were just lucky enough that your dear brother Tom sorted us all tickets for the game that was taking place the week that he got married. Was the Keith Hernandez game, and so it was a Seinfeld reference after Seinfeld, and not even just from people in the crowd who were holding up. What were the people holding up signs that said "Nice game, pretty boy"?
That's right, which is what Newman says to him in the episode, and then "I'm Keith Hernandez," which he says in his head before when he kisses Elaine.
And then so I turned up a little bit earlier than you to the game, and I got my little Keith Hernandez.
Oh, wicked. That's great.
My little Keith Hernandez bobblehead. There he's Bobbling around, nice game,
Bobbling
pretty boy.
away.
And then speaking of memorabilia and merch that might be worth a pretty penny. Now that we're a visual medium too, at last I can share my collection of early noughties big day out tickets that I saved.
Oh, look
so
at that.
I attended every single big day out. The big day out was the most important Australian music festival and one of the only Australian music festivals certainly that would come to Adelaide every year. So this is the first year I went was the year 2000. So that's 2000 when we were in year 12 at high school. So this would have been January, maybe early February 2000. And then I got 2001. And
Nice colourful get up.
Yeah, 2002, 2003. And I saved them all. There's my Godox.
Wow.
There's my Godox hitting the
Yeah, no,
there.
you got it.
There we go.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah. And so even though
you better put these off site, otherwise you'll get people watching this episode and trying to break into your apartment.
I'll get doxxed because I'm always getting doxxed. I'm always getting doxxed because of the inflammatory things that I say against various communities. So every day I'm sending out tweets that say, I don't like this community.
This community can get fucked. And then someone
say, oh yeah, this is where you live.
Calls a SWAT team to your apartment.
So that's my that's my merch big day out tickets. Now, John,
can I jump in?
Yeah, jump right on and in.
Speaking of, because I mean, part of the charm of what we're talking about here is the charm of analog items.
Yeah.
that are not digitized. They can't just be accessed. Like a badly named non-fungible token, which is a very fungible object, and or like anything that's just exists as a file.
Yeah,
they're real deal things.
How great is the word fungible to say?
I do love it.
Heavy on this token's heavy on the funge.
Yeah, if I had a kid, I might call them fungible.
And get called funge in the schoolyard. Funge.
Funge. So speaking of that, and there might be some potential here for people to preserve memorabilia from these events. I'm not sure. Perhaps we can come to that. But in the news in the last couple of weeks has been a bit of geopolitical tension with an analog twist, which I enjoyed because, we live in a time of, high-tech espionage, people hacking into other people's mainframes and, spyware and webcams and all this sort of shit. That's what you're most likely to hear about from, say, China sending technology to Australia that allows them to covertly observe what we're up to, or, Ukraine and Russia, screwing up each other's infrastructure with viruses or whatever. But two of our world's oldest and most beloved rivals, North and South Korea, have been engaged in a bit of border skirmishing of a different kind. So what happened was that South Korea apparently has done this a bit over the years, where it does things like, there's a few different tactics that it employs as a sort of morale busting assault on the North, albeit of a kind that is fairly sort of low stakes and doesn't run the risk of full-scale war breaking out. So it'll do things like drop propaganda leaflets over North Korea, or sometimes just play loudspeaker messages close to the border in hopes that North Koreans will be able to hear them, which will say disparaging things about Kim Jong-un, or maybe it'll say things about how great life is in the South and people.
He's fat.
People in Pyongyang. Yeah, that's right. His head's stupid. And North Korea decided they'd had enough of it, evidently, because all throughout South Korea in recent weeks, they started to find these large balloons that had basically were filled with, or were floating trash across the border into South Korea. So it's a kind of old-fashioned Cold War style provocation that I think has happened before, but not for quite some time. And the balloons are mostly being, reported by people and then investigated by the police or by the military, because at first people thought, oh, maybe these are full of poison or, bombs or whatever. But then on inspection, the military would come out to this balloon which had landed, in a city park or whatever, and it would just be full of like cigarette butts and old nappies and like horse manure. So and it kept happening. So, there was in the end, I think there were several thousand of these balloons, some 3,500 is the estimate. And there's in total about 15 tons of trash attached to these balloons as a kind of cumulative total. And they've all just got random filth in there. So there's just little mounds. You can see them. They're sort of like weather balloons, but at the base of them is this little mound of just unpleasant material that gets swept over the border and lands in someone's backyard or whatever. And yeah, they the sister of Kim Jong-un, who's one of the kind of key figures in his administration now, and she's kind of, quite aggressive and likes to be the spokesperson for these sorts of down and dirty tactics, said that they were being deployed to make good on her country's threat to, quote, scatter mounds of waste paper and filth in response to the leafletting campaign that South Korean activists had launched. For tat. Exactly. So they were like, well, you're going to fill our cities with crap, so we're going to fill yours with literal crap. And and then the South Korean defense minister, Shin Won-sik, said, this is unimaginably petty and low-grade behavior. I love that he's like sort of talking about like you would if like a school student had played a prank on the principal, you'd be like, can you not, whoever left the paper bag full of dog shit outside of the principal's office, you just need to grow up. And and apparently they were getting quite aggrieved because it just kept coming and coming, sort of, balloon by balloon. And it took a fair bit of effort because they couldn't trust that, these would be inert, harmless substances. So they kept having to like send officials out to collect these little bags of shit. And it just happened thousands of times. And I don't know, there was something to me, in the last decade, perhaps, North Korea has been the source of a fair bit of concern because it's got nukes and people worry about it. But this is the first time I've been charmed by their more belligerent tactics, because I just think it reminded me of like something from the Sandlot Kids or Dennis the Menace or Home Alone or something. That whoever was in charge of their wartime strategy just had watched the Goonies and they were like, I know what we can do. We'll just put some old diapers and poo in a bag and send it over there.
In the war strategy room, just with old VHS tapes of 80s goofy teen PG-13 movies.
Yeah, like they consulted their equivalent of Data, their sort of experimental science savvy kid character who was just like, I think we can make 3,500 balloons filled with rubbish and just send them over.
Yeah.
So, I think there's a few unpleasant conflicts going on at this time around the world, and I think North Korea are leading the way by showing us that, there's more juvenile and endearing ways to show your contempt for another people. You don't have to stream over the border with guns. You can just send a few bags of shit and it'll annoy and humiliate them and it'll be great.
There's a fascinating history of psychological warfare when two states are going at one another. I'm thinking particularly of, I think the United States during the Vietnam War would do things over loudspeakers. We might have even spoken about this on the podcast before, where
I think we might have. Yeah.
It's particularly interesting when one side is much more technologically advanced than the other, because they employ tactics which would be quite terrifying to the opposition, because if you're using some sort of technology which is quite commonplace in your own society, so if I was at war and there is a speaker going, "Oh, this is God saying, don't fight anymore. Put down your weapons."
Yeah.
I got a boombox at home. I know what this is. I'm not
that's right.
afraid. But I think
this is an insult to my intelligence. Yeah.
But was it during the Vietnam War, or I forget which conflict?
It was.
Yeah. Do you remember what happened, John?
Yeah, they'd play recordings which were kind of edited or put, imposed with various special effects to make them sound kind of spooky. And I think they were supposed to be the voices of the spirits of people's dead ancestors, basically telling them to stop fighting and go home. And I don't know, I like to think that in some little lab in, maybe it was in Vietnam, maybe back in the US, somebody was putting this together and they were like, this is pretty fucked. Do we really, can't we just shoot him? I don't need to pretend. I don't think we should be pretending to be ghosts. This
poor
is
taste.
This is wrong.
Same. It's in the same. It's in the same realm as using mustard gas.
Exactly. And then in the siege of the Branch Davidians in Waco, Texas, they did all these weird things like playing repeated, just kind of noises on loop. Really loud noises of, I think, an abattoir or something like that, noises from inside an abattoir of sort of screaming animals and all these horrible things, and then just heavy metal music put over the top of it, and just as a way of kind of breaking down people's sanity, really.
The abattoir sounds would be very effective if Morrissey was ever involved in a siege. You could just
in a siege.
You could just play abattoir music at him, and he'd go, no, stop, that's enough of that, and then he'd come out and he'd go, I was happy in the haze of a drunken hour. But
get Johnny Marr to take the megaphone and go, come on, mate, we all love you.
And then the band gets back together, and it's the greatest moment in pop music history. I mean, heavy metal's a funny one, isn't it? Because that's always been not always. It's a more recent music. But if you ever watch any of those war documentaries about the recent conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan and things like that, it always involves or Guantanamo Bay or Abu Ghraib. They were always blaring heavy metal music at them, which that wouldn't have been the first thing that I would have thought of. Was, you know what, these people are just gonna fucking hate is Slayer. They're just not gonna be able to cope with Sepultura. It's gonna make this war is gonna be over with if we just play Enter Sandman or Master of Puppets, then we win the war.
Exactly. They get the experts in and they go, this is not heavy enough. I didn't say new metal, I said death metal. Okay, this is completely wrong.
It's not working. We need to up the ante to black metal. We need Cannibal Corpse.
System of a Down is just further radicalizing these people. You need to give them
just
Cannibal Corpse.
Some general shaking his underling, going, "Why did you think Linkin Park was what? Don't know anything." About music. This is some marshmallow bullshit that you're playing these people.
Yeah, exactly.
Get Danny Filth.
Playing Smoke on the Water, going, yeah, you like that? And the guy's like, actually, yeah.
It's pretty good. Speaking, this is a good segue, John, if you're ready for a segue. This is unusually
I'm ready
apt
for a segue.
So one of our favorite platforms here on Don't Praise the Machine has been Udio, the prompt to fully completed song that will be the death of music platform Udio, which we played a little bit of from last year. And I keep encouraging everybody, if you've not tried Udio, get on there, udio.com, udio.com, and it's easy to sign up. You can sign in with your Google account, Facebook account, like you can these days, and it's free to try. You just put in a prompt, tell it what style of song you want and what you want the song to be about, and it's going to blow your mind. But this week, John, as I expected, the recording industry are set to sue Udio, the old mafia. Sony, Universal, and Warner have got together and aided by the Recording Industry Association of America, the claim alleges that Udio and Suno, which is another popular one of these diffusion text prompt to fully completed song platforms, willful copyright infringement at an almost unimaginable scale. And they are seeking an injunction to stop the companies from training their music. And they're seeking damages from training their music on the copyrighted material of the big three mafia.
Right.
And they're seeking damages. And I think they've asked for damages of up to $150,000 per song. So I think that's like whatever.
That'll add up.
if you've trained the model on one particular song from Taylor Swift, that's $150,000.
Great.
Yeah, but this was always coming.
And it's funny that I mean, it's not like the mother of all predictions, but we said a couple of weeks ago, this is what the music industry does in response to any advance.
Exactly.
This is what they did when torrenting happened. This is what they did when
Napster,
Spotify happened.
Spotify.
Yeah. It's like, we need to find a way to make money out of this. And so in the meantime, we'll just wage litigation war on everyone who's doing it until we get a foothold. And sure enough, that's what they've done. But I'm sure that the lawyers at Udio are just like, all right, it's Operation being sued. Like they would have seen that coming as soon as they set up.
Yeah, all the AI companies have big legal teams that are just waiting for all this stuff because, of course, what's going to happen now is all the companies that own the data that these models have been trained on are going to start coming out and saying, you owe us money. And it's...
What do you reckon? I mean, it's not really... It's not traditional, it's not like they're playing other people's songs.
No,
they're
so
obviously aping very closely their style.
So the analogy,
quite a novel issue,
that I like, that I think my friend Jordan gave, he said, if you as a human listen to a Bob Dylan track and are inspired by it, and you make a folk song that doesn't sound like you couldn't be sued for copying Bob Dylan because it's just, like you can't say, oh, Donovan can't exist because he sounds a bit like he was influenced by Bob Dylan.
That's right.
So that's the analogy. It's now that the computers are taking all of the...
That's what I'd say if I was their lawyer. I'd say, well, you couldn't sue a human for this, so why could you sue a machine for doing the equivalent of the same thing?
I was going to say to you,
make any sense.
I want you on this, John, because I've been I said, why can't you do cool law? And you keep saying, Al, it's important that people that have come to this country for a new life and are caught up in some petty crime, it's important that they don't get sent back to their country of origin to be killed. And I was like, but can't you just do it about music?
Boring.
Can't you do it with rock stars? Can't you be? And I've begged you since day one to be an entertainment lawyer.
Yeah. I just once I want to see you coming out of the courtroom with Ed Sheeran walking next to you.
Yeah, exactly.
I do sometimes feel pangs of envy when I see, and I know some of these people, as fellow barristers, and then you'll see them with like Rebel Wilson or something on the news and think like that's kind of fun.
I was listening this week to a song that I had made on Udio. I am a massive fan of the band Cigarettes After Sex, and I unfortunately can't afford to go and see them because somehow they have just very sneakily become a band that it costs like hundreds of euros to go and see in a stadium, which just blew my fucking mind because I thought that they were a kind of indie theater band, and I saw this little notification come up on my Spotify or whatever and said, oh, Cigarettes After Sex are coming. I was like, oh, sweet, I'll pay €40 and go and see them in a medium-sized venue. And it was like, there was like 7 tiers of tickets that you could buy to their show. It was, do you want the VIP experience where you get a neck massage from the bassist? Do you want to, will you pay 300 euros to be next to the stage? And I was like, what is going on? And they're playing the biggest venue in Berlin, which I was very shocked by, but such is the power of Cigarettes After Sex. I was thinking to myself, look, I want a little bit of a Cigarettes After Sex song. My Spotify discovery playlist is really letting me down these days because it just thinks that I want to listen to lo-fi hip-hop all the time. So I put in a prompt that said, make me a song in the style, this was Udio. I said, make me a song in the style of Cigarettes After Sex that is, and then I just made it the same as what every Cigarettes After Sex song is about. So I just said, make me a song that's about me having a one-night stand and I'm feeling nostalgic about it. That was it.
Yeah.
And I put it in.
Okay.
And it spat the song out. And of course, it did the classic Udio covering its legal bases where it said, look, I know you've asked for Cigarettes After Sex, but we can't actually reference them at all. So instead, we're just going to make it dream pop, indie, slow, and of course it just ends up sounding exactly like
wink,
Cigarettes.
wink. Yeah.
Particularly, I'll play the song at the end of the show. Particularly the intro with the particular guitar sound at in the intro is like exactly like a Cigarettes After Sex, Cigarettes After Sex intro. But the song is good. It's moving me emotionally. And then this incredible thing happened this week where I put it on my phone and I was waiting for the train and I listened to it again. And then I went and did something else the next day and I put it on again. And I realized,
wow,
I'm choosing to listen to an AI. I'm enjoying an AI generated song more than my Spotify discovery playlist. And then it's an earworm. So I'm singing a song that a computer made in a minute.
That a human hasn't even made.
Even made. So I'm just walking down the street singing this song, going, this is a fucking great song. And of course it is, because what it's doing is it's taking the sum of the greatest slow wave, indie pop songs that there are and piecing them all together. And so all those songs all those sounds that I love are just getting distilled, and all the chord progressions and the style of the singer. And it's very much go on.
It's not a kind of huge leap, is it, from, if you were on Spotify and using Cigarettes After Sex radio or something.
Exactly.
It's basically searching its catalog for those sounds.
Exactly.
Whereas this software is just going, well, I'll make a sound very much like that, and sort of put these, put a little pastiche of all the songs that I have in my reference base together.
Exactly.
And, make it slightly original. So of course it makes sense.
And
but I mean, does feel like a creepy threshold has been crossed when you're like, this isn't a novelty exercise anymore. I'm just now enjoying a song that a machine has made.
I was thinking I could just make an album of Cigarettes After Sex AI songs and just have that be my favorite album of the year.
Yeah.
And as you say, Spotify might say, oh, you like Cigarettes After Sex? Sure, go on Cigarettes After Sex radio and we'll recommend a bunch of songs. Spotify may well get that quite wrong in that they just might not find the songs that I really want to hear. And, that happens quite often. I'll put on a particular song and then I'll say, Spotify, give me some other songs that are kind of like this. And it's on Spotify, on the radio of that particular song. And then what it gives me back, I'm like, this is not like what I was listening to. You've got this wrong.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be better than that because it's going to know when it gives you Cigarettes After Sex like songs, they're going to be exactly that same kind of feeling. And and
it reminds me of when I went through this phase. I don't know what was going on, but it kept getting to the end of my playlist that I was amassing for that year. It was like faves of 2022 or something.
Yeah.
And then it would get to the end and it would always just go to New Slang by the Shins. And I'm like, what kind of basic bitch indie consumer do you think I am? I'm just like
Man,
thanks. Yeah, I've never heard this. This is great.
we said this on an episode before. New Slang by the Shins is the Shawshank Redemption of music. It's like it's if you meet some Aussie footy bro and he wants to show you a sensitive side, I'm fucking heaps into like food and music and film. Definitely favorite film. Like Shawshank Redemption, have you seen it? Like, I'm not like I've never been like heaps emotional, but like that film, like I don't.
Oh yeah.
When Andy Dufresne got out, I was like, man. And also, do you know the Shins? New Slang, mate, like new Slang and then pepperoni pizza.
Yeah.
That's your AFL Crows player.
Yeah. We've made that joke for such
Adelaide
a long
Crow
time, and the
player.
older I get, the more I'm like, that just sounds like a nice guy to me now. I want to have pepperoni pizza and watch Shawshank with him.
And listen to the Shins. The Shins is another great. The Shins is another great Udio. I'm going to put that in next time I'm on Udio. I'm going to say make me some Shins-esque songs. I tell you what, I will play the song that I made now, John, just for context. We won't play the whole thing, but I'm going to send it to you on WhatsApp, and then if you can just do the classic. This is so funny.
Lift, mate.
I feel like this whole podcast, if you don't stop me, this is going to become the Udio podcast, because even as I'm about to send this to you, I can see that the last few messages I've sent you are that YouTube channel that makes obscene songs out of Udio. Do you want to just tell people maybe what I've been sending you on YouTube, which again I made in Udio?
Sure. Yeah.
If you open the DPTM chat on WhatsApp, John, you'll be able to see what I've sent you. If you scroll up a little bit, you'll see the first. Just go past the death of Shifty Shell Shock.
Yeah, which, by the way, Varley Shifty Shell Shock. We should have done that at the top of the show.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's a channel that you sent me. Let me just see. Is it on you?
Yeah, I think it's called
YouTube?
Vinyl Night.
Yeah, that's
I think
right.
it's called Vinyl Nightmares. Is that what it's called? It's like
And the title for this one is Bernie Waite's "Got a Shit It Won't Pop Out."
Got a shit it won't pop out.
But obscure vinyl hashtag bad album covers, and then it's got this like faux image of a guy who looks like he could be sort of a R&B or like a soul singer from the 70s sitting on a toilet, and then it's just a very puerile song, but done in that, done in the way that Udio can, where it sounds like, if it was 2 years ago, I'd be like, somebody must have made this song.
Yeah.
And it's only now that I go, and that's just Udio doing its thing. It's listened to some Otis Redding, and it's gone, oh yeah, we'll just do it as though he's making a song about constipation.
I've changed my mind, John. I'm going to play this one first. We're going to play Bernie Waite's "It Won't Plop Out," because this is this is a more fun example of what Udio can do. So this guy who set up a YouTube channel called Vinyl Nightmares, it's so hilarious. It's so puerile. He just makes like sex and toilet humor songs with Udio, but then tells them to be in the style of a 60s or 70s soul song or an 80s boogie song. And then he uses AI to make these record covers that look really good as well, as if it's a real vinyl record cover. And then he even uses AI to generate quite interesting music videos with sort of trippy visuals. But John, if you can open the Bernie one, and then as soon as it starts, if you can do the classic, as soon as it starts playing, if you can just raise your hand. Give me 1 sec, John. I've just lost your window. Where'd you go? Give me a sec. Yeah, if you can just give me just press play on it and give me a hand raise.
5 seconds now.
I've got a shit that won't plop out. I'm pushing hard, I'm starting to doubt. I'm sitting here, sweat on my brow. Oh dear Lord, I need relief now. I've got a shit that won't flop out.
I mean, it's my kind of music
Well,
too.
it's
So your type of music.
I
It
won't
sounds
shout.
very much like Otis
I
Redding.
think I'll fade and pass out. My shit's impacted. It won't flop out. On this throne, I feel alone.
It's actually quite.
Assholes numb
Quite a cool
like
video.
a cold stone. I ate too much cheese. That's a fact. Now I'm stuck here. Can't take it back. I've got a shit
Nice.
that won't flop out.
Is that
I
a
push a
sufficient
string.
sample?
Yeah, that's
I
enough.
wanna shout.
Another point that
I
I'll
think I'll
just
fade.
mention.
Yeah.
It's incredible that in the second chorus he goes up in energy. The in the first chorus he sings, "I got a shit, it won't plop out," and then in the second chorus he goes, "I got a shit, it won't plop
Yeah.
out," in that classic soul
classic.
style of crescendoing
Yeah, yeah.
up with more energy, so
Yeah.
that the second
Yeah.
chorus keeps you interested because it's getting
Let it all go.
let it all
Yeah.
go. It's mental. And that just, if you had that
Yeah.
on in the background, I mean, you were joking to me and saying, I'm going to put this on at a dinner party and just not tell anyone
Yeah.
in the background.
Just have like a work event and put that in the background.
Yeah.
And everyone's going, what did he say?
check out, guys, check out
but
Vinyl
the other
Night.
thing it
Shout
made
out
me think
Vinyl
was-
Nightmares. He does them.
Yeah.
I'm going to, I could be wrong. Maybe it's a she. Maybe it's a she
Yeah.
that's doing Vinyl Nightmares. I'm going to guess that it's either a, I really want to
Probably
know.
like a 15-year-old boy. I'd say.
15-year-old boy.
But, if I had to guess, I mean, it made me think, fuck, thank goodness this wasn't happening when I was growing up, because I would have just been wasting all of my evenings doing exactly that kind of stuff, making this like really kind of idiotic nonsense.
But
sending it to my friends.
I will send you. So again, you can make funny parody songs on Udio, but this is the one, John, that I made this week. That's my Cigarettes After Sex song.
Oh, yeah, please.
And I can't stop singing it. I'll just play a little bit of it as well to the audience. And John, if you can just do classic John hand raise. Well, that's mean. I'm going to send it to you in DPTM. So just give me a raised hand when it starts playing.
Nice. Oh yeah.
This is the best song.
Underneath the midnight sky, tender whispers, soft goodbye, fingers tracing paths unknown. In your arms I felt like home. In the whisper of that night, shadows cast by candlelight, your touch was soft, your eyes so deep. In the moment, secrets we keep. No words needed.
Nice.
No stories told. In silence, it's all we hold.
A little bit. I'll give a little bit of the second verse too,
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
where she goes,
As dawn breaks, your scent lingers on. Memory of a love now gone. Every heartbeat, every sigh. Fleeting moments passing by. In my dreams, you're still near. Whispered truths that discern. Beneath the stars, we found our place. Lost in time and lost in space. Your lips against my trembling skin. A fleeting love, where do we begin?
"All right, that's enough." So I've just been singing
I'm
that.
worried that I'm worried that it's making me have an emotional response, even though I don't. It's not by a person.
Yeah, well, this is
But also, I think Yeah, anyone who's making jingles, I mean, that's that. That's curtains.
Yeah, it'll happen we're at 40 minutes, but I've got so much to say about where this is all heading for the music industry, because the writing is just on the wall. Like I said, I'm having an emotional reaction to this song. It's a good song. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
It's got this kind of Cocteau Twins, cigarettes after sex vibe. I'm seeing it. I'm like, lost in time and lost in space. No words needed. No stone unturned. So I'm singing an AI song and having an emotional reaction to it. And similarly, John, maybe we could just mention before we go, I sent you a couple of TikTok videos in a more of a visual AI thing that's going on, which is causing deep emotion. I think it's called Glumlot it's probably on Instagram as well, but on TikTok.
Right.
I said, maybe you could describe, John, for people what Glumlot's videos look like.
Yeah, and it's called, there's something else which is related to this, which we might get onto in a future episode, which is called something like Foldcore or something. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. Can't believe I got that right. And I don't know if you describe Glumlot as exactly Foldcore. He's kind of.
I think he's Foldcore. I think he claims Foldcore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So what it is really, and I've seen a few different things, which maybe will kind of mature into different genres. But he produces these very moody sequences, visual sequences, so moving images, and they're clearly AI just because they're too weird not to be. And there's kind of consistent overtones because he's obviously decided what the prompt will be. So you're getting these images and they're all as if you're watching maybe like a 1970s sci-fi or fantasy movie. So they're kind of grainy looking and the actors look like they might be from that era, or the protagonists.
The makeup and the masks and the set design is all 60s, 70s fantasy.
Exactly. And they're, people dressed as druids and sitting around producing spells and doing seances. But then there'll just be things that could never have existed in a movie from that era, like really complex visuals of, some sort of spirit ascending as everyone looks on, or a city that's kind of been taken over by one of these druids or whatever. And it's just like, it's pretty mind blowing. And legitimately, they're great images. I mean, which again makes you think, well, yeah, how far can this go in kind of usurping what our creative endeavors, certainly as far as adding special effects to something, but as well as that, like putting together a really interesting visual story, it seems to be well within the grasp of AI. And then there's this other kind of related phenomenon that I've observed, actually two. One is where it's just a kind of seething image where it'll be like somebody's bedroom, but then there'll be like things busting through the walls and things like suddenly the bedroom is turning into a beach and suddenly the beach is turning into a planet and suddenly it's turning into somebody's head. It's
very like hallucination.
It's very hallucinogenic. And again, you just kind of realize looking at it, like this is not something I can imagine existing until now. Not like an opportunity to see this would not have existed 2 years ago, let alone the fact that it's by a machine, but even trying to get a person to do that would be hard enough. And so it's not even a case of doing something that a human could also do, which is threatening enough. It's sort of doing things that I couldn't even think about doing because it's like, it's so advanced and so creative or wacky. And then there's this kind of weird thing which people are doing where they're turning old memes like Charlie bit my finger, they're augmenting them with AI. So you'll get Charlie sitting down about to bite his brother's finger, and then some like character will rush in from the side of the screen,
the time traveler,
and suddenly the story will change. And they make me feel a bit sick because I just think like it's a bit sort of, I don't know, it's just like you don't quite understand how it's happening, and yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, that's new this week or last 10 days that technology became available. I forget what it's called, but basically one of is Microsoft or another independent studio released a piece of software that allowed everybody to do those videos, and then they exploded because people said, let's take old still memes or old videos of like Charlie Bit My Finger and then just use it to make these weird trippy things. But don't worry, we're going to stay on top of it for you, everybody at Don't Praise the Machine, and we've got a few things for you to check out. Check out Udio. I'd really like people to send us songs that they've made in Udio, and we'll play the best ones on the show, because there's no copyright issue with any of them because they're not registered. We're not going to get our show pulled down like we will playing music from the Mafia. So we can play Udio songs. And also check out Vinyl Nightmares. He's excellent. If you have TikTok or Instagram, look up Glumlot. And you're going to go, oh shit, I'm having a strong emotional reaction to something that's made in a computer. And then you're going to have to sit down with your family and discuss that over meat and veg and what it means for you and your family this year. John, do you want to see us out?
I hope that everyone enjoys, in the not too distant future, sitting down with their children who were growing outside the womb in an artificial vat, and maybe they're eating lab-grown meat.
So well,
sitting around they're eating their beef-flavored Soylent Green, and they're discussing the latest Foldcore video that's being fired into their eyeballs. I think that's the kind of future that we've all longed for.
I love that.
Thank you, though, very much, everybody, for joining us on this week's episode of Don't Praise the Machine. It's been me, John Junior Boost Maloney, coming at you with that sale of the century energy. And my number one podcasting 1998 AFL Premier of the Year. That doesn't make sense.
Back-to-back Premier. AFL
my number one
Premiership
back-to-back AFL Premiership team captain,
Alexander Apricot Pepsi Holland.
And we can't wait to see you next week.
At the podcast. Yeah.